Hey, welcome into the League Company Countdown to Kickoff. Another Sunday, and this one, the Tennessee Titans on the road taking on the Indianapolis Colts. As always, alongside my co-host Blaine Bishop and Brad Hopkins, Buck Rising joining us in hour 2. And again, this show always made possible by League Company. League Company, all you need. Visit them online at leaguecompany.com. Good to be back with the band, guys, and I'm telling you, the temperature differences, from the Caribbean where it's 80 degrees to 30 degrees, it's a warm welcome. Is that what you would say? No, it is a cold welcome, but that's okay because we've got a warm show coming up for you today.
So unfortunately, get the vacay going on.
Right?
Yeah. It's been a long time. Next time, me and B, I want to get an invite. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
no
kidding.
problem.
You want to go someplace where it's warm? Don't be escaping without us. What's going on with
unlimited food and drink package on the show.
Shut your mouth.
Come on.
See, now you're bragging.
Enjoy the show.
Do they do like, what's the entertainment for everybody? Like, I know they used to have like gambling to swimming to, all the stuff.
They've got like casino now. They've got shows every night. They've got karaoke, trivia. Then you go to the destinations, right? And you get to do the beach days or
take us on a tour. Where'd you stop? Do you remember?
Yeah, so we stopped. Unfortunately, the weather in the Bahamas, that first stop on that Sunday was not. We could not dock because the wind was so bad. So we could not stop in the Bahamas.
Did you get nervous?
No.
Oh, okay.
And I did not get seasick because it was my first ever cruise. I did not get seasick, although I feel like now I am on a boat. I still feel like I am on a boat this morning. No joke, you guys.
So you kind of lightheaded, huh?
Yeah. It is a very weird feeling. So if you see me swaying on the F&M Bank chat, that's why.
Wasn't because you were partying last night.
No, not at all. But yeah, we went to Dominican Republic, which was so awesome. The people were great there.
Yeah.
And then Turks and Caicos.
Oh, I have not been there,
Yeah.
though. Man, I want to go to Turks and Caicos.
So
Beautiful.
two good spots, guys.
See, I'm not getting on a boat, getting in open water unless it has elevators on it. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Yeah.
Or maybe a helicopter pad or something like that.
Yeah, I'm not real big on the boat, but
Not me
I've
either.
done it a couple of times.
Me
But
either.
yeah,
This
my
boat
wife
was
gets seasick,
huge.
so she can't.
She can't do that.
She even takes the medicine. It doesn't work.
It doesn't work.
I'm not saying that in a bougie standpoint, like it's got to be done. I'm just saying from the point, look, if that thing goes down, I need at least a chance to get off that rascal.
Sure. And they've got those big, huge boats that are like attached to it.
This ain't going to be no Titanic stuff.
it's
I'm
ready to
throwing
go.
dudes off that thing if I can't get on there.
Exactly. This was one of the biggest boats I've ever seen in my life. Holy smokes. It's brand new. So
It's
it's like a big
floating building.
It really is. I'm like, how do they put these things together? But, that's what it is.
good.
Well, you missed Groundhog Day. I mean, it seems like the same
guys.
conversation every Sunday morning about what this team needs to do to win.
I mean,
They need to go on a cruise. That's what
They
they need
really
to do.
do.
Come back and feel lightheaded. Maybe they realize that, okay, now we're going to start winning some games.
rejuvenated.
I like that.
Because I was checking in while I was on the cruise. We had Wi-Fi, so of course I watched the game even a little bit on Sunday on the boat.
Oh.
And like you guys said, same thing over and over again. It's like they're in the game for a little bit, and you're going, okay, this team's competing, and then turnovers.
Yeah. It seems like there's always something that at some point in time ends up happening in the game to them, put them behind. Because they do start out with the focus. They do start out with seemingly the right discipline that it takes to make explosive plays and do some of the things that make you feel like, hey, you know what? Today is the day. And maybe they're thinking the same way we are. As soon as something happens, here we go. And that's what you have to try and avoid. And, Blaine can tell you, we've been in situations where it hasn't necessarily gone our way. But I think sometimes when you play consistently, the thought pattern is that it will change. You're going to do something to make up for whatever it was that was a mistake, but you can't keep making mistakes and shooting yourself in the foot. You can't have a 2-on-1 situation where you're playing against an opponent and your bad play is also playing against you. So now it's 2 against 1. You'll never win in the National Football League like that.
And for me too, guys, and we're going to get to the comments that Brian Callahan had.
Are we going to play him?
If we can find them, I would actually like to. Jeff, do we have any of that where they actually bleep out half the words?
I see. I can try to find it.
Okay. Yeah, we'll work on getting that because I do want to talk about it. It definitely made national headlines.
Finding the clean version is going to be the challenge.
Is the challenge of it, yeah. So I did like, the response. I don't know, Blaine, if anybody ever were to have called your team soft or you as a player soft, like my reaction would not be good. And so I love what Callie.
I don't think nobody would have ever said that.
Yeah,
First
and for you
foremost,
guys in particular, right?
I think it would have been a laughable conversation, to be honest. Just different situations. And I get why the question was asked. So the perception from outside can always be that, whether it's mentally tough or physically tough. And our team was built on our identity was that we were going to be a physical, dominating team, especially with our offensive line that we had there with B-Hop and crew, to physically dominate and wear you down and run the football till we get you to submit. That was really the plan, and then play aggressive defense and getting after the quarterback. So I just, I don't think that would happen with us, but, hey, it was kind of weird because I think the Titans have been playing really hard, just maybe not as smart, but that has nothing to do with the mental toughness and everything else. So I just think they don't have enough pieces to the puzzle. And then your quarterback, when he plays bad like that, that's always tough. I don't care who you are. I don't care if you're Mahomes and, you got a really good defense on the other side. You have 4 turnovers as an individual at your quarterback spot, then you're always going to be in a tough situation. So it was more about that and the regression of Will Levis in that game than anything else.
Yeah, we have to look at what the definition of soft is. I'm using air quotes here. Is soft tapping out? Is soft not going on a play that you're expected to go in and contribute? I mean, those kind of situations, no, because every time you hear them playing an opponent, what do they say? They're going to play us hard. These dudes are physical, and that's what you want as an identity. Now, like Blaine said, the things that plague you are the mistakes or the lack of discipline. Yeah. Now, that's not soft.
Right.
That's just not that. Sometimes doing dumb stuff. Yeah. Soft is when you quit. Like he said, our goal is to make the other team submit to our will, right? Yeah. And how do you do that? By pounding people, by flying around, by getting to the quarterback. Now, that hasn't always been consistent, but soft is not a word I would use to describe this team.
Yeah. And then consistency too,
man.
Like I haven't seen. I know the referee is bad and everything else, but I'm not going to make any excuses. All these false starts. I'd love to ask B-Hop with the offensive line. Every game is actually getting. I'm not even a coach. I'm getting a little perturbed now. Like, well, dang, how many times are you guys going to do this game in and game? And I get it. Sometimes you get a little itchy and you want to get after a guy. And that happens periodically. Usually spread out amongst games. But, man, they continue to get a little itchy there at the offensive line and false starting or, whether the call is questionable or not, it was called.
Right.
So that stuff is just, that's a little irritating, too. And to me, that's a little bit more on the discipline side for individuals more so. But maybe the coaches are emphasizing and now the guys are just thinking about it so much they still keep getting the itch.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that we always play this game of trying to time up the snap count.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And we can hear the cadence of the quarterback just like the center can hear the cadence of the quarterback. And when you hear him say hut or when the ball's supposed to be snapped, the center snaps the ball a microsecond before you hear that because the quarterback should have the ball in his hands by the time you hear that. And we as tackles on the edges, we hear that too. And we're trying to get out the ball as fast as we can so that way we can get set up in our drop and be prepared for whatever pass rush that we're seeing, right? And I think that sometimes the officials get wrapped up into watching us at the end of the line of scrimmage versus watching the ball. Because if the tackle and the ball are moving simultaneously, that is not a false start.
Right.
But also what happens sometimes is if the guard doesn't get off the ball as fast as you do as a tackle, it looks like a difference in how you guys are getting off the snap. You see what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Now, MPF is one of those guys that likes to time up the snap count because he wants to get off the ball as fast as he can so that way he can get back and get set up. Sometimes that can work against you because you're creating a natural crevice between you and the guard if he's not getting off the ball as fast as you are. But it does stand out sometimes when you have a tackle that gets off the ball faster than the guard because it looks like, oh, he moved first. He moved the same time the ball moved.
Right.
And that's what a false start is, not necessarily the movement of the tackle. So I would remind them of that sometimes.
Are you going to train the referees? Do you need to go to the NFL and start training the referees on about false starts?
You're wearing the armband over there close to the officials and stuff.
I get on the field. I'm just looking at uniforms.
Hey, look here, Zebra. I mean, Mr. Official.
Yeah, right.
You need to start looking at the ball and not looking at the guys because they're pretty much getting off the ball in the same time,
Maybe they should emphasize that in training exactly what you just said. I mean, man, that was education at the finest on, how it's perceived from guard to center all the way out there to the tackle. So, man, maybe somebody hasn't said that to them.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, especially if you can hear the quarterback's cadence because listen, sometimes Steve would forget what the cadence was when he told it to us in the huddle, right? It just happens. The guy's got a lot going on. But we could tell by his rhythm in the cadence what the snap count was on.
Vibe and feel,
right?
Yeah.
So we know it just like he knows it.
Yeah.
So it's like, oh, we know, what snap count is. Now, I will say it could be different when you're working with a new quarterback, you know what I mean? Or even a different quarterback.
So that could happen today.
It does, yep. And also, Brunskill versus Lloyd Cushenberry. Sometimes there might be a difference in how he hears the cadence too, So, but it's just getting on the same page, being cohesive and understanding exactly what works. Now, when you're on the road, the rules change helps us because you can't hear the cadence in a loud stadium, right? The rules change in that if the defense crosses the line of scrimmage and then you jump, then it's not a false start; it's an encroachment, right? So I would just look at the defender. I don't have to try and know where the ball is or the cadence because if he moves, then I can move. And if he moved before the snap count was, then guess what? We got 5+ yards. So just trying to be smart and play those little angles in the game that get you prepared. Yeah,
got to get back to the post, so they got to get on the same wavelength.
I like it.
You do that for Caleb?
I like that, Blake. Very creative over there.
Hey, Caleb, what do you think?
Right. I know. No, I really do feel like that. So, again, if I'm swaying, I'm not joking on the chat. That's why. It is the Lee Company Countdown to Kickoff. Lee Company, all you need. You can visit them online at leecompany.com. Real quick, too, with the injury report before we head to break. Luke Gifford, he's going to be out. He still is dealing with that concussion in protocol currently. Kenneth Murray and Otis Reese, 2 other linebackers. They're questionable for today. Hopefully we'll get that list to you in the 10 o'clock hour and who is active and who is not. And Braden Narvison, he is activated from the 53-man roster. Looks like he's going to get the go today at kicker as Folk is still dealing with that groin injury. When we return on the Lee Company Countdown to Kickoff as the Titans gear up for the Indianapolis Colts, Brian Callahan making headlines this week, like we mentioned, after he remarked after his team maybe being called soft. We actually have the audio. Jeff managed to get that. We'll get that next and get your thoughts on it, Blaine and Brad. That's coming up next on the Lee Company Countdown to Kickoff. Welcome back to the Lee Company Countdown to Kickoff. Titans trust their home stadium to Lee Company to tackle their HVAC, plumbing, and electrical problems. They can protect your home to your next play. Visit leecompany.com. Lee Company, all you need. And, of course, we're counting down the Titans as they're visiting their division opponent, the Indianapolis Colts, today. We will get to Brian Callahan's comments in just 1 minute, but I did want to start with the big news of the week, and it was Will Levis being benched. And earlier in the year, he was obviously not playing, but that was because of an injury. He was never technically benched. Well, he has been benched, guys, and Mason Rudolph will get the start today. Brian Callahan saying it was not an easy decision. He was also asked if the locker room had anything to do with the benching of Levis, and he noted that it was more so simply the consistency that he has not been able to play with at this point. What do you guys make of this benching late in the season? The storyline all year long for Will Levis has been, we're sticking with him so we can totally see what he is as a quarterback. So is this at this point, guys, saying we've seen enough?
Yeah, it's almost like Will Levis's play has been almost like the stock market. It's had its ebbs and flows. He's played well in some instances, right? Shown a spark of big play capability and that he understands the environment of which he's now trying to traverse. And then there's those things that he just does, like that one, like when we saw Brian Callahan look at him one time during, he said, "What the are you doing?" You know what I mean? It's just those moments. And sometimes it is just the struggle. And when you're a young player, that anxiety, helping you contribute to the dumb stuff that goes on in the field, But I think Brian summed it up in one word, the consistency. And that has been the issue. And this team needs him to play at his best and be someone that doesn't give the football away and understands exactly what the defense is trying to do against you and have a game plan for that. He doesn't always have the right answer. And I think we're comparing him to his draft class. You're looking at Jaden Daniels. You're looking at Kirk Cousins being sat down and Michael Penix Jr. now being in the lineup. You're looking at, how Caleb Williams is adjusting. And some people are saying not at a pace that the Bears would like. So when you look around at the guys that are drafted in the same class that he was, how is he comparatively speaking? And I would say the pick 6 number is probably what stands out the most. His mistakes have contributed to points for the other team, and that has culminated in losses for the Titans directly. You can say things about the offensive line and them being inconsistent. You can say things about, not getting turnovers and giving opportunity and, being able to work in a landscape that's kind of rough, right? But at the end of the day, it comes down to his decision-making and doing the right things that don't end up costing your team ball games. And he's been the microcosm of that for a lot this season, unfortunately.
Yeah, and Blaine, real quick before I get to you, Levis, just for number-wise, he's thrown for 1,916 yards. He's at 12 TDs, 12 picks, and the Titans have gone 2-9 in the games that he has started.
Yeah, I think unfortunately, it's hard to disagree with the coach and the decision there. I'd love to see, because in the National Football League, you're going to have some bad days. He's not a veteran player, but I'd love to see him and see how he responded to that. And then I might have went that route, but I get it. Coaches are built on, who gives us the best shot of winning games. And naturally, I think Mason Rudolph is probably a better fit for this style of offense, being that he's going to just take what they give you, the defense gives you, and what the offense in the system runs. And right now it's his turn, and it seems like that's his, the decision for their entire season. He didn't say that, though. He left the door open, and I get it. He did the smart thing there, because you just never know what may happen in a game. Mason Rudolph could go out there and play bad. He could get injured or whatever, knock on wood. But and then Will Levis goes out there and responds and does well. So I think the ebbs and flow of one position that you don't want, I think B-Hop touched on it, inconsistency, and ebbs and flows in the game. You don't want your quarterback to be that way. And that's really, I think we found out, that's who he really is. It's innate in him. And then some of the make up, the things that he did in the game were just elementary, in my opinion. Like, the guy played post, safety, and you threw right to him. He sat there and watched him the whole way, and you saw him. Mm-hmm. And like that one there was just like, man, why did you even throw that? And so I just think he has a mindset, this is who I'm throwing to, and this is what I'm going to do on this play. And you may get some wow sometime, which is exciting. I know for me, I love to be entertained when I watch teams play, especially the Titans. But he's gonna give you some lows, and it'll have you pulling your hair out if you're a coach. So I think that's where we're at now, and then we'll see where it goes with Mason Rudolph. So I don't know if it's going to get super exciting. I just think now he's going to do what the offense does and says to do. But here's one thing I want to see from Mason Rudolph today. I want to see if he can give us a couple wild plays. Sure. We haven't seen that. I thought he had more of a big-time arm when you watch him with the Steelers and even at Oklahoma State. I remember he was there. And I know he can throw the deep ball. So if he can just give us a couple of those a game and then don't turn over the ball, I think it's going to look like, the way, head coach Callahan wants it to look in the offense. So, but there's always a lot of pieces. The offensive line has to do well. You got to run the football against the Colts, and you just can't turn it over because they play a lot of zones. So it's going to be interesting to see how this game matches up. And I'm just so disappointed we didn't get to see Levis versus Richardson. Now, last time it was Flacco.
Exactly.
It's like we just never got to see
Levis,
that. One good thing you can say is, are we ahead of most teams on the development of knowing if you have your quarterback? You can always look at the positives.
It's a good point.
Because coaches are still trying to figure it out.
That's what I was going to say. It's not like Anthony Richardson by any means is some finished product. Right. And I think they're still holding on to, well, he hasn't played as many games even in his college career. So, we see all this upside, but that's still a big question mark as well. It's a great point, Blake.
Yeah, and like you said, though, Anthony Richardson has probably played the least amount of football games in this draft class. They compared him to Bo Nix last week, who played a ton of college games. But then when you look at the tail of the tape, and basically Bo Nix kind of wills them to a W, and Anthony Richardson doesn't have a touchdown, has 2 interceptions. I think he threw for 172 yards. His yards per average were 4.5. So it kind of shows you that there's some need for improvement there as well. But what he does present, and I'm sure he'll present today, is his ability to run the damn football.
I know, and we have trouble with running quarterbacks.
Absolutely, that's what I was going to say. We've had this discussion on the show so much.
How many times, Blaine, do we have Joe Burrow and all of a sudden he does something squirrely and gets out and extends the plays?
That's why
this boy can do the same thing. He can do some of the same thing.
They put in running plays for him, and we've had issues with that all season, at least the defense, to me. Not just scrambling quarterback, but design runs. And this guy runs like he's a running back. So, I'm a little nervous that they put some of this stuff in and we don't have everything on defense where they should be, especially with the linebacker issue with injuries.
Right.
So I don't know who's playing and who's not.
Do you spy him, Blaine? Do you keep somebody that says, hey, this dude right here, he about to, he's in the gun, but I don't know. He looks like he's about to draw this
definitely
one.
Got to do that.
Exactly.
Definitely. At some point in time.
Well, it will be interesting to see, if they can go up there. And I know at this point of the season, it's starting to wind down, but to still be able to find ways to win games is incredibly important for this organization going into the offseason to really know, okay, this is what we have right now. This is what we don't. And again, I know you won't be able to necessarily see that with the quarterback as Will Levis isn't playing, but I do feel like we're going to get our answer here as the last 3 games kind of unwind. So we'll see what happens there with that position. But in terms of this team and what it is as a whole, it's never broken up and they've never gone against each other. They've always found a way to stay together as a team in that locker room. And I've noticed that, throughout media availabilities when the times have been tough, it's never been pointing fingers, which is something to say in terms of the coaching job of Brian Callahan. This week, he was asked a question about potentially some people thinking his team is soft. This was Brian Callahan's reaction, and then I definitely want your guys' reaction. Guys?
I mean, you really want to get me going today? Yeah, I think, to be honest with you, I think it's complete and total bullshit, if you want my honest opinion. These guys are tough fuckers, man. They go after it every day. They play hard as hell. And there's at no point have we ever put on tape at any point this season that this is a soft football team. Like, I can't even wrap my mind around how that would even be a conversation. I mean, just because we don't win games doesn't mean we're soft. These guys play their ass off. They play hard. They play physical. You can ask any team that plays against us that when they come off the field, they know they played us. Yeah, that makes me relatively angry that would be some presumption. That means you just don't watch. You know, you don't do anything about it that you don't know what you're talking about. You don't know what you're looking at. So I won't stand for. I'm not going to stand for anybody calling his football team soft. I think that's. I mean, I'm really. You're gonna really get me going now. I mean, these guys come out here and they do everything possible to win games. And if there's any assumption anywhere that's outside of this building, again, we don't focus on all those things, but there's no possible explanation to say that this team is soft any way, shape, or form, mentally or physically. And the way that they go about their work it's insulting to me, to them, to everyone that works here. So I'm not that no chance ever in hell would I ever admit that to be the case, and neither would anybody in this locker room. So you can kind of shove that one right up your ass, to be honest. So.
Wow, he did not hold back at all. I did see that once over the trip where I was at, and it was on every news outlet. And a lot of, these analysts really liked what Brian Callahan did. I'm curious as to two guys who have played the game specifically for this, Titans organization. What did you guys feel about his response?
Well, I'm trying not to laugh because that last part was awesome. Because he started to work himself up as he got going, right?
Yeah. He had to take a breath.
And he said it all with a smile. Now, let's just put all that pomp and circumstance to the side one second. The people that needed to hear that were the guys that strap on the helmet. Because what he did was he supported you during a 3-win season. He stood on business and said, this is what you are. I believe in you. And ultimately, if nobody else does, it doesn't matter. And like you said, those guys had their backs against the wall for most of the season, and the only one that believes in them at all in anything that they could do are the guys that actually wear the thumbtack, the flaming thumbtack. So he had to say what he said. And he said it eloquently enough for the people that are hearing it in the locker room to understand that they have his support. And that's all that matters. Not hiding behind, well, some people say, nah, stand on your business. If that's what you feel, ask the question. And he even challenged him, go in the locker room and ask him. Ask Jeffrey Simmons that. Hey, are you soft? Is this team soft? Yeah, you laugh because why? Because that would never happen.
No.
The only thing I would say is that Brian Callahan did that with a smile. I don't know that I'd have been smiling as much as I went off. But he did put an exclamation point on it when he said, you can put that where the sun don't shine. And I think he meant that. So there was no real way to respond to that other than how Brian Callahan responded to that. How do you think Andy Reid would respond if somebody asked him if his team was soft? How do you think, a matter of fact, was it Dan Campbell? No, it wasn't Dan Campbell. It's Dan Campbell. Somebody like a John Harbaugh or somebody that's struggling, they posed that same question and he didn't answer it with, the same kind of, the cussing and whatever, but he still approached it the same way. Don't ever call this team soft because guess what? These are football players. Very rarely do you see a team quit. That's a soft team. A soft team is one that just can't handle it physically or mentally, and they just check out. Yeah. That's soft. But this team, they do play hard. They just don't play consistent. They don't play smart football all the time. That doesn't make you soft.
Yeah. Yeah, well said there. I think he started down that road. I think that what pissed him off is because when someone says your team is soft as a head coach or any coach, it's really it's personal and it's an indictment on you as a coach. And so that's really what the product you are pushing. So then you didn't take it to that level. I think that's why I got to that, because of all the things you can say about me as a coach, you can't say that my team is soft and they don't play hard and all these other things. So I think, as a head coach, your team puts, the performance on based off of the reflection. Now, can you say they're being inconsistent? Yeah, you can say those things and say, hey, that's a reflection of your coach. But at some point, you got to take that in as a player and say we are responsible for what we do on the football field and take ownership in that. So I think that's why coaches never like hearing about guys aren't playing hard or soft or anything like that. That's definitely an indictment on them personally. That's how they take it.
1,000%. I mean, seriously, though. I mean, because whose responsibility is it to make sure your team isn't soft? Right. It's your coach and the culture that he establishes. Do they practice hard enough during the week? Are they competitive enough? Do they have enough confidence to step on the football field with teams that aren't soft and handle their business? That is an environment that the coach is directly responsible for. So when you're asking if this team is soft, you are looking at Brian Callahan and saying, are you running a soft team?
Yeah.
Versus, the dudes that are in there lifting weights, practicing their craft, hitting each other during practice. How often do you do that? Some regimes run a harder practice than others. And some people just don't want to be a part of that. Hey, they do 9-on-7 and run drill every single day, don't they? Even on Fridays. I don't know if I want to prescribe to that. You know what I mean? That's the reality, right?
Right.
But then some people, especially if you're in a winning program, they accept it because that's what they know it takes to win. So that is a question that is directly pointed at, while he's talking about the team and addressing the team being labeled soft, that question was to Brian Callahan.
And, it's funny because I want to say it was 3 weeks ago, we had a caller call into Ramon, Kayla, and Will one morning. And they put out the notion that Brian Callahan was not a manly man in terms of leading his football team because of maybe the way that he came across in press conferences, because he's very transparent. He comes across more jovial maybe sometimes than other coaches in the past that the Titans have had. Specifically, Vrabel was just a different type of coaching style compared to Brian Callahan. But what I think was funny was if you go ask any of the players who played for him in Cincinnati that knew him for a longer period of time, they would have told you straight up. Callahan might come across in some situations as being this nice guy or, whatever, has a positive attitude. But when it comes down to business and when he is trying to address his team or when things, don't go the right way, he is going to be upfront with you and he is going to be, not aggressive, but he's going to come across as a guy who wants to compete and doesn't want to, be having a team that's soft. And that's, to me, what it was. I mean, that's his authentic self in my eyes of what we just saw with this rant. Because just because he comes across as this guy that is transparent with us in the media and all that does not mean that that's what he's like all the time.
You said don't let the smooth taste fool you, huh?
Exactly.
Yeah, well, I mean, he showed that early in the season, so those people who are not paying attention when he went after Levis on the sidelines.
Yeah,
no doubt about it. He showed you his intensity, what it's all about. Don't get fooled by the nice and eloquent words about the football and what happened in the game and all those things. There's no way, no how you can have intensity at some point in the locker room as a head coach, assistant coach, position coaches. That's not part of ball. So you can't get this far without having it. So, hey, some people got to hear it, though. They can't see, between all the, the leaves and everything else that's in front of you. But, you knew he was going to be tough. Once that happened, that was early in the season. What was that, week 3 or so when he went after him on the sideline?
Yeah.
Like, what the ever are you doing?
Man, he was fed up with it.
Yeah. Well, that was enough then.
That has to be true, though, Blaine, because when that dude is standing in front of 53, 80 dudes, right?
Yeah.
We see your eyes. We see who you are as a leader, and you are the ultimate leader of this whole situation, right? And if it rings false, we know it. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? It's like they say for a pet owner, not everybody's cut out to own a Rottweiler.
No.
Very true.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because that Rottweiler knows.
He may turn on you? Huh? Because he may turn on you?
Hey, listen, if the Rottweiler knows he's in control, that's a bad situation to be in, right? And not every pet parent is capable of handling one of those kind of dogs, right? And that's exactly what an NFL head coach has to be. Man. He has to be someone that, I'm not going to say iron-fisted, but has to be someone that the team respects enough to not challenge his authority. Yeah. And that's what we're talking about here, right? Somebody softer that runs a soft regime, but just someone that doesn't have control. Just lets the team kind of willy-nilly do what it does. There are some veteran-led teams that have guys on the roster that maybe even as old as the coach, and they kind of set, like Blaine, when you and I came in 93, Jeff Fisher ultimately becomes the coach the next year after getting the interim job, right? We had dudes on the squad that were older than him.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Then Jeff?
Yes.
And that's kind of, Brian has a couple players older than him. Yeah.
So, but the point I'm trying to make is that sometimes a veteran-led team doesn't put as much focus on the head coach and how he's handling his business, because that team it doesn't run itself, but there's enough of an identity, there's enough of a structure there with the guys that have been there to where, hey, young players, when you come in, this is how we do stuff. Okay, we don't need the coach walking in and out of the locker room. This is our locker room.
That's how Mike Tomlin kind of runs his ship over there in Pittsburgh. You're talking with Ramon a lot. He said this was a player-led locker room always. And then if he needed to come in there and whatever, that's fine. But the players, were responsible enough to run their own way of.
Well, that's how Fisher. I think Vrabel was that way too as well. listen to people. You would know better than me. I don't know.
Tomlin was smart in that he has his leadership groups on offense and defense that he communicates with directly, knowing then that message will get sent down the ranks. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
so
that's a good point.
You don't have to. It's not like he doesn't have a relationship with the last dude on the roster, but he doesn't necessarily have to communicate that directly because I'm talking to Cam Hayward. You know what I'm saying? I'm talking to Russell Wilson.
Yeah.
I'm talking to everybody on the team that really makes a difference because I know that they're going to first buy into what it is that I'm telling you because I'm giving you the reasons why we're doing what we're doing. Now I'm expecting you to go ahead and make sure the guys that you're playing with to your left and your right understand exactly what my message is.
Absolutely. Great stuff there, guys, and reacting to that. It's always interesting to get your guys' perspective because you've been in a locker room, you've played for, certain coaches. So great perspective on that. When we return on the Lee Company Countdown to Kickoff, we will get back to our betting segment. I don't know if you guys did this last week in terms of the betting, but I'm going to make you guys pick this week, at least Buck and Brad.
Yeah.
So we'll get back into that. We'll see if we can get back on track. You are listening to the Lee Company Countdown to Kickoff. Lee Company, all you need. You can visit them online at leecompany.com as we're counting down the Titans and the Colts. Welcome back to the Lee Company Countdown to Kickoff. The Titans trust their home to Lee Company to tackle their HVAC, plumbing, and electrical problems. They can protect your home too. Your next play, visit them at leecompany.com. Lee Company, all you need. I was told that you guys did do the betting segment last week, and we have the results from that. Jeff, you said Buck came out victorious.
Yes,
What did he
because he
bet?
picked the other team.
Jamar Chase.
I'm about to do that, too.
Brad, you had the Titans winning the turnover battle, plus Tony Pollard breaking that
Look
1,000-yard
at you
mark.
going to double
Well, I
up.
picked one, the turnover situation, but then I started thinking about it. I was like, man, Tony Pollard's only like 60 yards.
Yeah, I was right there in agreement.
That's an
I put
obvious
my-
one, right?
I put my chips on your side, man. You made me lose.
I would have too.
Lost my
Yeah,
chips,
man.
man.
So,
My money.
Brad, you went 0 for 2.
Over 2.
Okay, and Buck got it because he bet on the other team. And guess what? That's what I'm about to do. I mean, when things start to go in this
That's where we're
direction,
at.
guys, and you can't trust the team you're betting on for anything,
my.
you got to go in the different direction.
I'm so disappointed.
You sound just
Kayla.
like Buck last week.
I'm
He said
so
the same
disappointed,
thing.
Kayla. Oh my, you've gone to the dark side.
I've gotten to the dark side, right? I go on
Dun, dun,
vacation, and this is what
dun, dun.
happens. I realize what's going on.
Well, I know you're still a little lightheaded. So.
And you know what? Scoob in the on Twitter said those sea legs last for 3 days.
Yeah, that's what they say. Yeah.
What in the world? I don't know if I can manage that for
So that's what
3
you
days.
got. Oh
Woo!
man.
Suck it up, right? Got to suck it up. Move forward.
No wonder you couldn't open that door today. That was helping
You
you.
were struggling with the door. Not that,
Was
that is a
I?
vault,
Okay.
though, you know?
Yes.
But she was like,
Usually I'm a lot stronger than that. Okay, Brad, what do we got for this week's pro props?
Well, the fact that Anthony Richardson tends to have some of the same issues that Will Levis does, holding onto the football, it can be problematic. I'm going to say we finally get some sacks this week,
Okay.
you know? I'm going to say the Titans win the sack ratio. How about that? The Titans get Anthony Richardson down on the ground more than the Colts get Mason Rudolph down on the ground.
Okay, I like it.
Yeah.
I think that's a safe bet, considering, like you said, yes. And I think, there's been turnover issues with Anthony Richardson as well. So that's not a bad bet. I told you I was going to pick the other team. I am. And I actually got a text from Corey Curtis at News 2. And this is something that I think is a little shocking considering it's Jonathan Taylor, but it is a true statement. And we've talked about this for the last several years. Jonathan Taylor has never rushed for more than 70 yards against the Titans.
I know, yeah.
Which is wild to think about. So I'm going to go the under 84.5 on rushing yards for Jonathan Taylor today. I feel like
that's still in favor of the Titans because if that happens, you hope
that's a
that
good.
they win.
There we go. So I don't feel so bad.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, if you think about it, was JT in he wasn't in the last time Joe Flacco was that
No.
quarterback, right?
He's always been
He's either
injured or missed a
injured either,
game.
right?
Yeah. All right, now explain this to me, guys. I don't know. Maybe this is a dumb question, but when he fumbled and dropped the ball, does he get those stats of running? Or is
Does
that
that
like
come
a
back?
no play?
When you
Well,
He
think
gets
about
the
it.
rushing yards. He
Didn't a
gets the
similar
rushing
situation,
yards, right?
Didn't a similar
Yes.
situation happen when the pick was thrown last week and the kid didn't cross the line, so it came back to the Titans as a
20.
touchback?
As a touchback.
So that's like,
it erased that whole play.
see, that's what I was thinking, but I
So-
wasn't sure. Do you know, Caleb?
No, I don't. If anybody, in
Yeah.
the
Well, Jeff,
FNF
look up the
chat
rule. I know
knows.
Jeff knows the rule.
Yeah.
Well, I know with the interception with a touchback, it still counts as an interception. It just doesn't count as
Okay.
a pick
The
six
yardage.
because he was.
Okay, what
Okay.
about rushing?
Yeah.
I'll check on the rushing thing though.
Oh,
That's
okay.
okay. That's a good
really
question.
interesting
Yeah, right.
I did not know because I felt like it got wiped out, but no one
Right.
ever said that. So I was like, man, and it looked like in the moment, like he had already crossed, like it was easy, but then he did not when they showed the slow
Exactly.
mo. It was like, oh my.
Never mind.
Yeah, I felt like he was halfway through the end zone.
Exactly.
I was
Man.
like, dang, man. But hey, he looked like the old Jonathan Taylor. I could tell you that, man.
I
He
know.
was weaving and dodging. I was like, oh my gosh, this is the old Jonathan Taylor. I said, uh-oh. So we get to see him. Let's see, because I feel like he's always getting hurt the game before our
He really
game.
is. I mean, the years that I have
Ankles
been here, I haven't covered much of him, in an actual live game because, like you said, he's either gotten hurt the week before or he's been out for a certain amount of time. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see what he can do if they can shut that run down, something they always want to try to do with this Titans defense. As for the Titans offense, Tony Pollard, I know he's been banged up. He is expected to go today. But Tajay Spears, guys, in that last game, I think that's a positive to draw from that Cincinnati Bengals game. Yeah, there we go. Yeah. Speaking of Tajay Spears.
On TV.
He is somebody that you should play. In terms of NFL, ESPN's fantasy running backs this weekend, because he had a great game this past week against the Cincinnati Bengals, and it's been frustrating.
He was the leading receiver, right?
He Very balanced. Well, he didn't have as many yards. He had 80. But he did have the leading in catches.
But he just wants to make an impact. And talking to him so many times, you guys, it's been frustrating for him this year. He's been banged up.
Injuries.
He's had the concussions. And he's just a guy,
hamstring,
right? He just wants to play. So I like that this is at least towards the end of the year headed in the right direction for him.
Yeah, you're right though, Blaine. He did lead the receiving because he had 6 catches, targeted 7 times, which means that he was in both balance of the game, running and passing. He didn't have any carries, that were significant. But Calvin Ridley was targeted 5 times. He had 3 catches, 41 yards. Chigakonkwo had a day, 8 catches for 59 yards last week. I'm thinking about the receiving core for the Colts in that Alec Pierce is going to be out. Yep. Josh Downs is now coming back, but he was on the list there for a minute. Michael Pittman was removed from the injury list. So he got a little bit of practice in, but that doesn't mean he's 100%. So, maybe there are probably more opportunities for them to try and run the football and keep the ball out of Mason Rudolph's hands and kind of win that situation. But when you have a guy like Jonathan Taylor, when you have a dude that's effective running the football, even though he has mistakes in the pass game like Anthony Richardson, you would only think that you better watch the line of scrimmage because these cats are trying to do some stuff to create consistency, manage the down and distances, move the sticks, and try and win that situation.
He's got the fumble stat. Let's go, Jeff.
So rush yards do count when as soon as he loses the ball, whatever happens, that's after he gains those yards.
Like a normal play
So, for example, if he rushes 10 yards, loses the ball, and like a lineman picks it up for 2 yards, he's still credited for 10 yards. The offensive lineman is actually credited for the 2 yards.
Nice. There we go.
Yeah.
Oh.
Look at that.
Offensive.
So there's Blake brought up the question. Great question. Now we got the answer. You learned something new
I'm
today.
still confused. How can a lineman have yards?
He said if he picked it up and say he ran for 2 yards on the ball.
But then he continued running, then that's a whole different ballgame. That's credited to someone else. But those 10 yards before a fumble, that's still to the runner.
Give credit to the lineman for being down there, right? And getting the fumbles and getting a couple more yards.
Hey, Jonah Williams got a touchdown last week or the week before.
Yes, I mean,
I saw that.
Catching the ball and doing some stuff. And shoot, how about, let's say.
No, we got to talk about sweat.
Thank you.
Dude, when I saw that, I was so excited.
People get to see how athletic they are.
Man.
Kayla, I heard that you said that you could be sweat in a 40 before you saw him do that straight arm.
Did you say that, Kayla?
I think I'm going to ask him. Let's go in the locker room. 40. Let's go.
No,
he would beat my butt probably.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, but
after I saw that.
I asked my wife. The reason why I bring that up because I asked her why. I said, "Do you think you could beat him in a 40?" She said, "You crazy? I knew I could beat him." I said, "No, you cannot."
Stop, Blaine. Stella would wipe his.
No way.
Yes,
no way.
she would.
And see, what it gets at is the fans sitting on the couch, just like these big old guys that weigh 340. Like they're not athletes. And I'm like, man, I don't know.
I get what you're saying, but your wife is an athlete.
Don't let your eyes deceive you.
And I'm not saying you're not an athlete.
No, I mean, still, he is
pretty athletic. Yeah,
he is everything that everyone said coming into the draft about Devondre Sweat. And I get it. There was questions about certain things with the DOI and everything, but I think the Titans, that was one of the best things they could have done to give him a chance to go down there, to really let him give his side of everything. Yeah. And now he's shown the type of player he is.
He plays the most snaps of any D tackle.
Yeah. Blaine, how would you tackle him? How would you, if you were on the other end
I
of
would have
that?
been trying to tie shoestrings. I would have went knee down. I probably would have knocked myself out. There's no way you're going to hide. I can't put my arms around him. So I would have to just dive at his knee, and hopefully he'll try to jump or something and fall.
Exactly.
I mean, no way.
That's the only thing you can
You got to have a strategy to tackle some of these dudes.
Absolutely.
I think a lot of people don't even have strategy to tackle them. And like, if you were tackling Derrick Henry, you got to have a strategy.
Yes.
You can't be just thinking, I'm going to go up there. Man, no way.
Yep.
But have a plan.
Take a knee to the forehead. Next thing you know, ding, 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 ding.
Exactly.
Night, daddy.
Yeah, I was always trying to make sure I didn't hit the temple.
I'm sure. You got to be strategic. It's like one guy leaves. We were famous for the stiff arm here, and maybe another now will reign as the stiff arm king in terms of Devondre
That was
Sweat.
King Sweat.
It
That was
was.
King Sweat with the straight arm.
Right? That
They
was
need to
so
give
fun.
him some refrigerator Perry type plays.
Oh, yeah. That was one of the trivia questions we had on the NFL trivia on the boat.
What?
Refrigerator Perry, his
Oh,
nickname,
oh,
who was
yeah.
Refrigerator
Well,
Perry.
Matthew McConaughey said refrigerator is
William
not his
Perry.
real name.
I know.
Oh,
Thanks,
love
thanks,
that.
Matthew McConaughey.
Sweat played with Texas.
Exactly. Yes, he did. And they moved on. So we'll be having a discussion about that, I'm sure, on all of our shows next week when it comes to the college football playoffs. Well, we are brought to you by Lee Company. Lee Company, all you need. Visit them at leecompany.com. We are counting down the Titans and the Colts. And when we return in hour 2, Buck Rising going to join us live from his home state in Indianapolis. Indiana.
Oh, that's right.
Yes, he is an Indiana guy, and he will join us from Indianapolis. That's coming up next in the Lee Company countdown to kickoff as the Titans take on the Colts.
No, he's not from Indiana.
Welcome back into the Lee Company Countdown to Kickoff. Facility managers need a reliable partner for their HVAC, plumbing, and electrical needs. They trust Lee Company's 24/7 service and their team of experts. Your next play. Visit LeeCompany.com. Lee Company, all you need. We are counting down the Titans at the Indianapolis Colts. Yes, another division rival game here. The Indianapolis Colts earlier on this season in Nashville took that game. Will Levis played in this one. He will not play in this game today. That will be Mason Rudolph in at quarterback. Hour 2 is here. I'm Kayla Anderson, joined by Blaine Bishop and Brad Hopkins. And we have got Buck Rising soon to be, who is in Indianapolis, who will give his thoughts on the quarterback situation today. But guys, what do you need to see out of the Titans in this, again, divisional matchup, which you always have to take pride in? We'll get your thoughts real quick, and then let's bring in Buck.
What do you think, Bish?
Well, I was going to say you got to stop, the quarterback in the run game with Richardson and Taylor. I think that's where it all starts. I think he brings a whole nother level of rushing against the defense, and it could be problematic with him and Taylor. So you got to get that under wraps, and then force him to be what he's not, and that is just a polished, proven passer. So you got to play a lot of zone and make him try to fit in there, certain passes. Just don't think he has that kind of discipline. So I think that's kind of first on the list for me. And then I think Mason Rudolph is just going to run the offense. And just as I mentioned earlier, I want him to be able to hit some big plays in there, throughout, but pick his spots. And, there's going to be, shot times where, you get one-on-one shots and you got to make those plays. So I think that's really just simplistically what I think they have to do to win. The Colts have a lot to play for. They're still fighting for that last playoff spot. So how do you view that? Is that more pressure on them and we can just play loose? I don't know if we're going to play loose. I think they're going to just run their offense, the Titans, that is.
Well, the Titans don't have anything to lose.
Right. They have nothing to lose, but they're trying to prove, maybe Mason Rudolph is trying to prove that he can be a maybe bridge quarterback. And I'm not talking about just next year. Yep. Because we don't know wherever the quarterback situation is, maybe trying to buy maybe the Titans some more time. If he plays well enough, they may say, you know what, this could be an option over these next 3 weeks. Mason's
smart enough to realize that every time he steps on the football field is an audition for every team. The one you're playing on and the other 31 that will watch this tape. Yeah. Especially when they're looking around and seeing, what needs need to be felt. Is that a guy that we can rely on? Should we end up, making an offer for him because we like his play, or he's just not even an option? You know what I mean? But I will say that play calling and the things that you put in an offense determine how tight the rope is that you're walking as an offense. And what I want them to do is basically be able to, not have negative plays that make them fall off of that tightrope. It does seem like,
no false starts,
no interceptions, no fumbles. There is an opportunity every single week for them to play mistake-free football. That has very rarely happened here in Tennessee.
Oh my God!
Okay, but think of how much easier it is to win a ball game when you don't do things to shoot yourself in the foot. We talked about this in the first hour, Kayla, about two teams versus one team, the team that you're playing against, and the mistakes that you make being the other team that you're playing against. You see, so if they can limit those situations and play precise and disciplined, then they have a chance to just basically do what everybody's saying that they can't do, which is win a ball game on the road against a team that understands them directly, because I've already played them once this year.
Yep, they have.
And beat you in your backyard, okay? So they can return the favor. Now, this is the National Football League, which means that any Sunday, somebody can beat somebody. You know what I mean? Even the illustrious Kansas City Chiefs, who've only lost once this year, are almost seeming like they're going to get beat every single Sunday, but they find a way, right? And that means that the teams that they're playing against, whether it's, a Broncos team that doesn't seem like they're capable, of course, they've got a stout defense. They can do some things. And Bo Nix might quietly be Rookie of the Year this year. You know what I mean? Who knows how this thing's going to work out. But there is that ability to win a ball game because competition is so close. Everybody's got All-Americans on their roster. Right. Everybody was captain of the football team in college. You got, I can't remember what defensive coach used to say is, you got any scholarship players over there? What was the guy's name? Brimley? I don't remember what his name was. He was one of the defensive coaches that we had when Blaine and I got here, and he would always ask the question, you got any scholarship players over there? Well, hell, we all scholarship players, man. So, but the point being, it's competitive in the National Football League. And I would say that the collective bargaining agreement has it so to where talent is evenly distributed throughout the entire league.
Absolutely is. You're listening to the Lee Company Countdown to Kickoff. Lee Company, all you need. Visit them online at leecompany.com. Joining us now, live from Indianapolis. I feel like I'm doing like Saturday Night Live here. It is Buck Rising. I'm guessing that you had some shrimp last night, cocktail sauce, all of the deals.
St. Elmo's?
I had to do the shrimp cocktail sauce, bringing some shrimp cocktail sauce home, did a little filet, little crab Oscar on the top with some asparagus. It was delightful.
It sounds like you're in a food coma.
No, I did it like 3 o'clock yesterday because I knew I was going to spend the rest of the afternoon at the hotel bar watching the college football. Unfortunately for Tennessee, I'd left at halftime.
Woof.
But yeah, I had time to work my way through it.
Well, hopefully you didn't lose your voice because you do sound like it. I have sea legs, though, so that's okay, Buck. We're all dealing with something. And so are the Titans because they're just dealing with not being able to win football games. But maybe that can happen today. It will not be, though, under Will Levis. What did you think about earlier this week when Will Levis learned he was going to be benched for Mason Rudolph?
Well, I mean, in game, it's one thing, right? It was an inexcusable performance. You had to sit him down. To bench him the rest of the way through doesn't make sense to me unless you're coaching for your job as a coaching staff. And that's really the only, obviously nobody said that. And in the press conference afterwards, Brian Callahan basically talked about, well, we're just focused on Indianapolis this week. There'll be time to reflect on all these decisions that were made, what went wrong, what went right, who's most to blame in this situation, and what percentage of the blame that the coaching staff, the front office, and the organization share beyond just the player failing. And he did fail for the most part. He has not performed up to any just reasonable standard as an NFL quarterback, and that's why he got set down. Now to make this move with 3 games left, we understand that there's some level of urgency, but it's mostly on the part of the coaching staff. And I think that's unfortunate for Will because it's, while I do acknowledge that he has not been good enough and that he is probably not this franchise's future at quarterback, he is still under contract for 2 more years. And, kind of throw your hands up in the air and be like, all right, I give up, 3 games left. Let's show something. I don't love that as a strategy.
Hey, Buck, one question. Are the Titans soft?
No professional football player is soft. No professional athlete is soft. It's an irrelevant question, honestly, because I don't care about how soft or how tough you are. I care that you're 3-11. So I thought, Brian Callahan was asked a question and he responded to the question, and the way that he responded is fine. Like, you can nitpick some of the stuff that he said in there. I think he talked himself into a bit of a circle on some of it too, and whatever the case may be is. But I know, this is Brad. It's going to be a decade for me in August that I've been in Tennessee and covering this football team, and through that process, it starting as a football fan and then becoming a media member. There, you can definitely see both sides of things. When a football team isn't performing, it's an easy allegation to lob from fans on Twitter that don't know anything about who these people are, what these people do, and all the things that they had to do to get to this particular point in their careers. But I have spent too much time around professional athletes and know too much about the places that these people come from, beyond just whatever their work ethic is whenever they get to the pros, to ever be comfortable calling a football player soft. To me, it's an irrelevant question. It's an irrelevant answer. Some of it felt a bit performative to me because it doesn't matter what they say anymore. It's incumbent upon them to go out there and perform, and whatever their toughness level is, they do not perform.
Hey, my thought, Buck, was that his answer basically gave support to the guys that are in the locker room. If their head coach is being asked a question about them, whether they're soft or not, his response, as eloquent or not, however you look at least showed that he had support for them despite their record right now.
Sure. Well, he better if he wants to continue to do his job, because everybody's under scrutiny right now, and they're probably, I can't speak for players in the locker room. I wouldn't, but it would be completely natural for them in the locker room to be questioning whether these are the right people to continue to lead them to success when there has been, maybe behind the scenes and in the meeting rooms, they are on the same page. They're bought into the system. They're bought into the process, or all these other things that he's talked about, underlying, that are bubbling and showing that they are doing the right things beneath the surface. But, I mean, respectfully, I don't care about beneath the surface. I care about the thing that you do on the football field, which is the only reason that people are hypercritical of this football team.
Buck Rising joining us live from Indianapolis as we count down the Titans and Indianapolis Colts today. So, Buck, is there anything in the next few games that this team can do under Brian Callahan right now that can end the year in a way that we're going, okay, maybe there's a little bit of hope with certain things? Like, what would those things be that you feel like could not be fixed but could head into the offseason with the right in the right direction?
No, certainly. I think, that you've removed the biggest variable. Because, listen, Will has been the majority reason that they have not been able to succeed. If you take away the disaster plays, this is probably a team that maybe isn't 500, but certainly closer to that conversation, given the amount of individual moments that you can highlight where games have directly been given away. So now it's incumbent upon him to show, him being Callahan and the coaching staff, that they can coach a well-rounded football team if I take away the person who's directly responsible for 24 points in favor of the opposition last week with 4 total turnovers that are unacceptable. He has to be the coach of the defense. He has to be the coach of the special teams, not just the offense and not just getting something out of Mason Rudolph as the quarterback, even though that's his thing. Mason Rudolph can give you baseline functional NFL quarterback play, and it's not going to be much above that, and you still have to play cleanly in the other phases of the game to be able to capitalize on that. But if you get baseline quarterback play, how does the rest of your team respond? Because there's been too many examples where this team has cratered in a variety of different ways where, maybe they fix the special teams on one week. And by the way, special teams has been improved. Right. Basically since, Detroit is obviously a historically bad outing, but they have made incremental improvements. They have changed personnel there. So you have seen that. The defense is a situation that you continue to monitor to see how these guys respond when they've been put in disadvantageous positions, and particularly in the red zone where they have been suspect, I think is a diplomatic way to put it. So, yes, you can learn a great deal about who these people are, what they do, and whether they have their team ready to play or not.
Well, Buck, when it comes to this game specifically today, we've seen Indianapolis one time this season, but that was with Will Levis in at quarterback. Now they're going up there. Now they're going to see Anthony Richardson. It's kind of like a flip of scripts in terms of the quarterback situation. What do the Titans defensively need to be on the lookout for in terms of Anthony Richardson? Because really most of the running quarterbacks or even design run quarterbacks this year, the defense has had an issue with.
Yeah, and that's the challenge on any defense with quarterbacks that possess mobility, and this player has unique gifts where that is concerned. But if they play sound on first and third down, because Richardson is not good on the easiest down, coaches will tell you the easiest down to pass on is first down, and Richardson is not an effective player on first down, nor is he an effective player on third down. He's got the lowest completion percentage on third down in football right now. They just have to play within their scheme. They need to be disciplined in their assignments. They can't let miscues or penalties allow additional opportunities for the Colts to move the ball down the field, because you've removed the situation, if you're the Titans, that causes you the most, self-inflicted wounds, right? There's still penalties, and this is the second most penalized team in football. And that's not on Will Levis. That's on offensive line. That's on defensive pass interference. There's a variety of different things that factor into that. But don't let Anthony Richardson beat you. Don't beat yourself. That's basically all it is. And I know that's pretty baseline stuff, but that's where they're at right now.
I just wonder about the line of scrimmage. You're talking about the line of scrimmage that basically can be won by the Tennessee Titans, especially when you're going up against an offensive line that does get Ryan Kelly back, but Tanner Bortolini has been filling in admirably for Ryan, as he's probably their best offensive lineman besides Quentin Nelson. But Bernard Raymond, Matt Goncalves, those guys on the edges there might be an opportunity for the Titans to maybe apply some pressure to Anthony Richardson, speed up his clock, make him make a turnover, or turn him into a runner when he wasn't designed to necessarily be a runner. So I wonder how you view the line of scrimmage and the Titans' ability this week to get off the field on third down.
Yeah, that's a big part of it, right, Brad? Because, on aggregate, the Bengals were excellent on third down last week. And in particular, they started that game 7 for 7 on third downs. And Burrow has unique ability to, he's a mobile guy, right? We know he can run, but that's not like he's not overwhelmingly going to beat you with his legs. He's just he might be the best quarterback inside the pocket at manipulating that pressure and making guys look foolish. I think he had the ball for 9 seconds on one of those touchdown passes that he threw where he's just bobbing and weaving and making guys miss, and while keeping his eyes downfield. Richardson is not that level of skill. He does not possess that ability right now to isolate and eliminate as he's working his way through those progressions the way that somebody who's basically a machine like Joe Burrow can do. So, yeah, you had the quarterback dead to rights a couple of times last week, and he just slipped away from you. That cannot afford to happen, even though he's bigger, faster, stronger than a lot of these guys out there.
And conversely, you're talking about DeForest Buckner. I saw some comments that he had talking about how physical the Titans are, how they do come to play, basically. Kwity Paye is a guy that they spent a first-round draft pick on a few years ago. I wonder how pressure will be for the Titans this year to keep Mason Rudolph upright and allow him to do his job in the pocket.
Well, and Mason does a good deal to help with that, right? He's more decisive, and I know people roll their eyes and say captain check down or whatever, but take the check down. Like there's nothing wrong with that, for living to see another down, for keeping that pressure, to protect the offensive line that is also there to protect you. And honestly, Brad, I think that's one of the more disappointing parts about how badly Will Levis imploded last week, because that was it wasn't a perfect game by the offensive line, but it's one of the better games that the offensive line has put together, particularly in pass pro. And you saw him making these mistakes from a clean pocket in ways that were just kind of both inexcusable and really inexplicable, other than whatever Will Levis has going on in his head. And, to the other point of that, J.C. Latham's had basically a down month at this point in time, and that's fine. That's rookie stuff, and he can continue to work through. He had a strong start to the season, and now that's kind of ebbed a little bit. Latu, who he's seen already this year, is a quality player, another first-round pick, just like himself. And so that matchup between those two players today is going to be fascinating to me, because you're correct. The Colts definitely have some horses up front, no pun intended.
Well, Buck, naturally on defense, they have some linebacker issues as far as injuries. Do we know who is going to be playing, and will we see Cedric Gray? I mean, man, maybe it'll just be an opportunity. I don't know where we're at with that whole situation. Give us an update.
Yeah, the injury report has been not necessarily favorable. The Luke Gifford thing is obviously, he's not going to play in this game. He's been in the concussion protocol. Kenneth Murray, they were out there testing it in pregame. We'll see what determination they make on him officially here in about 15, 14 minutes when the inactives come out. But yeah, I would expect that James Williams and Cedric Gray are going to see some run, right, Blaine? I mean, they did kind of force their hand last week. They were just simply down to the two rookie linebackers that primarily play special teams because of the way that the injury situation went out. But, Jerome Baker, I think, has had his opportunities here. Obviously, they would need him if Kenneth Murray can't go, just for the sake of bodies. But, this is, again, at 3-11, it's about opportunity and what you do with that opportunity. And this is a huge spot for these two young players to come out here and show up against a team that is under 500 but still has quality and can still find ways to beat you.
Well, one team has a lot to play for, the other team not so much, besides pride. How do you see this playing out?
Colts are a better football team. Titans have a more reliable quarterback situation. So not necessarily being able to account for the variance that Anthony Richardson shows. I just look at the spread. They're 8-6 against the spread this year. The Indianapolis Colts are, and they're favored obviously here at home by 3.5. I would expect the Colts to be able to handle it, but Mason Rudolph gives them Brian Callahan talked about it this week, Blaine. Mason Rudolph gives them the kind of thing that they've been after all year, just a player that's going to keep the offense on time, keep the offense in rhythm, and operate at baseline functionality. So if they do that, they can give themselves an opportunity to win this game.
Buck, I wonder if this is less about wins and losses than more about the evaluation of trying to understand what you need to do during this offseason to get yourself better for 2025. Obviously, competitively, it doesn't make a difference right now with 3 wins. They're no longer in the postseason type situation, haven't been for a while. I wonder if they're now introspectively looking at what they have on this roster, some areas that they need to get better at, and maybe starting to take a look at the landscape of not only within themselves, but around the league on what they need to get as far as pieces to make this team whole again. What are your thoughts?
No, I mean I get that perspective, Brad, but this is about winning games. Like I know that 3-11, you people fans don't care about that. They just want the best possible draft pick, and that does not translate to winning games, obviously. But that's why the coaching staff made this decision. They're on the hot seat here, and I know that Amy Adams-Strunk is still paying both John Robinson and Mike Vrabel to go away, and then it would be I don't know that she could necessarily afford to buy out a coaching staff or a GM, but I think that everybody is under incredible amounts of scrutiny here, and that they are absolutely coaching to win, which is why, among other things, this quarterback change has happened.
Buck Rising is joining us from Indianapolis. We are the Lee Company Countdown to Kickoff. Lee Company, all you need, visit them online at leecompany.com. Before we let you go, I was told by Jeff that you did win the bet last week, so congrats. Brad took 2, and he went 0-2. So what do you got for us this week, Buck?
Well, like I said, the Colts have been 8-6 against the spread this week. I'd probably take them minus the 3.5.
Minus the 3.5. Okay. All right, you got it there. I actually went with a opposing bet like you did last week. I went with Jonathan Taylor under, I think it was 84.5, because he's never ran for more than 70 against the Titans. So that'll be interesting to see.
Well, hopefully for their sake, if you're a Colts fan, you would like him to hold on to the ball as he crosses the goal line.
One other thing, but before we let you go, we understand the sentiment of the Tennessee Titans here in Nashville, and how obviously people want better for this team, especially after only having 3 wins to this point. You have people that are in the state of Indiana. You probably get some sort of reflection on how they're viewing their team, the Indianapolis Colts. Now, I know that they still have a heartbeat, let's just say that at least, as far as the postseason is concerned. But, how do you think the fan base feels about, their quarterback, about their team, and how they're competing this year?
They want him fired.
Yeah.
Beyond just the quarterback, it's a question of who you talk to, with the Colts organization, and they're still very, very unclear as to whether they can move forward viably with Anthony Richardson, but they are less likely to make, the kind of move, even though they have already benched him this year for performance issues, and that didn't last very long. The biggest problem with we'll call it the Richardson issue, is that he simply has not played very much football. Like if people were talking about, Will Levis hasn't even played a full NFL season prior to him, completing, I think he's made 20 starts now, prior to getting sat down last week. Richardson has played such little football at both the high school, college, and professional level, and they're just trying to see if this guy can continue to make progress based on what they're seeing. But the progress has not been sufficient, and unlike the Titans situation, the coaching staff is directly tied to him because they spent the number 4 overall pick on him while being in place, which is different than, Mike Vrabel, who was moved on from at the end of the year, who was the coach in place when Will Levis was drafted.
Well, what about Steichen as well as Ballard? Because that's what I hear, that they are not happy with their performance, and they want some heads to roll.
Yeah, no, I mean, people, the vibes around Chris Ballard have always been so confusing to me because the fan base just does not see it. And, that he works for an organization that continues to give him opportunities. But Blaine, how many coaches and quarterbacks have been fired or tried and haven't worked under his watch? And this is a team that continues to just kind of hover around the 500 or a little less than. I think they're 6-8 right now. That's not acceptable for a team that hasn't hosted a home playoff game since like 2014 or something like that. And that wears on ownership when you built a place like this that is specifically designed to host events, except they're hosting all manner of events except home playoff games for the Colts.
Yes, misery loves company.
I was just going to say, the whole AFC South has its own problems in every situation when it comes down to it.
The Texans are miserable, and they just waltzed to a division title. I mean, that's what it is this year in the AFC South.
That's how Buck likes it.
It is what it is,
Chaos.
right?
No.
Even
Contrary to popular belief, I'd rather watch good football. I know people think that I feel a certain type of way, but the only thing that I hate and that I actively root against is bad football. We're just seeing entirely too much of it across the board.
So what did you think about Indiana Notre Dame real quick?
They played the most competitive college football playoff game of the weekend. I'd certainly be scratching my head looking around and questioning myself if I was a Tennessee fan and got on social media after that and said, the SEC team should have been in. All right, well, they'll lose 42-17.
Right. Yeah, you know what? Marcus Freeman felt a certain way being on that Purdue coaching staff. When Bryson was up there, he understands that rivalry playing Indiana. And like Blaine said, South Bend and Bloomington aren't that far apart. So I would imagine this is more of an emotional game than most would have thought. And Marcus Freeman has done a heck of a job and well deserving of his extension. What do you think?
Oh, no, I totally agree, and I was happy to see him get it. And I know that people, give me a hard time for being an IU basketball fan and a Notre Dame football fan, but that's representative of the vast majority of the state. I think Marcus Freeman has really done well to kind of rally the troops and get them to this point after that awful NIU loss earlier this year. And I think he was very happy to stick it to Coach Cignetti, who's been talking a lot, and I appreciate that he's trying to manifest something in Bloomington that's never, ever been done before. But, you could tell that it was personal for both sides.
He is Buck Rising, kind enough to join us from Indianapolis. You can follow along his social media today as he covers the Titans and the Colts. We always appreciate your time, Buck.
See you, Bucky.
All right, kids, have fun.
All right, he is Buck Rising.
We're older than him. He called us
the
kids.
Lee Company Countdown to Kickoff. Yes, we're all older than him. Let's not remind
you
ourselves
three, for
of
the
that. Oh, except for Jeff. Excuse me.
Don't throw me under the bus.
Yeah, Jeff is younger. So one of us is not. It is the Lee Company Countdown to Kickoff. Lee Company, all you need. Visit them online at leecompany.com. When we return, guys, it's about that time. We've got the inactives coming out pretty soon, so we'll see who is available, including will Nick Folk go at kicker today, or will it be Braden Narvison? I did see Teron Davenport tweeting out Nick Folk arriving in Santa gear. So he is festive for the holidays, but will he be festive enough to play? That is to be determined, right?
Right.
Hopefully he could go, but if not, it's Narvison time. That is next when the Lee Company Countdown to Kickoff returns. Welcome back to the Lee Company Countdown to Kickoff. We're getting you ready for the Titans and the Indianapolis Colts. We're brought to you by Lee Company. Lee Company, all you need. You can visit them online at leecompany.com. And remember, facility managers need a reliable partner for their HVAC, plumbing, and electrical needs. They trust Lee Company's 24/7 service and their team of experts. Your next play, visit leecompany.com. Lee Company, all you need. Okay, guys, so we talked about the inactives coming out. Those just came down. Jim Wyatt just putting those out. And it looks like Nick Folk, will be out today. So it will be Braden Narveson, who is in at kicker, as Nick Folk continues to deal with an abdominal injury. Folk right now, before this game, he was 6 for 6 from 50 plus and has a 95.5% accuracy on field goal attempts this season. He has been spectacular for the Titans.
He's been the most consistent thing of the
most
team.
consistent player, right? So bummer to not see him today, but he's been dealing with that.
You know why that's sad? The Titans are trying to kick field goals with 50 plus.
Yep.
You can't get your offense down in the red zone consistently enough to try and put points on the board. I'm not talking about field goals. I'm talking about some touchdowns. That is the difference. I mean, it's a great stat to have where you've got a reliable kicker, and when you need points, it's good to be able to have somebody that can at least get you 3 and the extra point, right? But for the most part, I think that's a terrible stat to have.
I know.
6 kicks in the 50-plus range.
Like,
Man.
good for him, but not good for the Titans offense overall, because you always want to be able to put in 6 down there.
Should take offense to that offense.
Right? Take offense to that. Today, also out, guys, Jaquan Jackson, Trey Avery, Joshua Kelly, Gabe Judy Lawley, Luke Gifford, who we discussed earlier. He's still in concussion protocol. And no Jerome Baker either. So 2 linebackers, Jerome Baker and Luke Gifford, will be out. Will we see more, like you mentioned, of Cedric Gray, Blaine? I think it would be encouraging to see, a little bit more of what you got of this rookie who has dealt with a lot of injuries this season. He's been, playing more special teams plays, but it'd be nice to see if the game has kind of caught up to his play at this point, because he said a lot during training camp that this game was fast and it was a challenge for him to adapt to that level.
Yeah, I'm interested to see who also starts. I mean,
Me too.
Otis Reese is back? I mean, I have no idea.
And Otis Reese, it looks like will play because he's not on this list, and he had played some good snaps, for the Titans prior to this. So.
Yeah, so that will be interesting. I know the Titans have had success there in Indy. I think they were 5-2.
Yeah.
I saw that over the last 7 games. So maybe they have some little mojo in Indy that will continue because maybe they can't handle the pressure. Because they're always playing them at the end of the season.
Exactly.
There's always something going on at the end of the season. So,
Coach Blaine Bishop, let me ask you something. How do we get to Anthony Richardson this week? Do we dial it up? Is it something where you can get there with 4?
I think that's why I said that was a key to the game.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's exactly why. Because I think his running ability, if I was the Colts, I go right back to the Green Bay game and watch how they set up Malik Willis and made it simple for him and ran the football, designed run plays, and see if the Titans actually fix that. Don't know if the Titans will have the same game plan. If it was me and the Titans and I'm game playing, I'm playing zone. I'm not doing a lot of blitzing. If I am, I'm going to do zone blitzing schemes because I want to bring confusion. You're dealing with a high-profile athlete. The dude is off the charts. Let's see what his brain and his decision-making is all about. And I think that's how you beat a player like that.
We haven't talked a lot about the tight ends, and I do want to shed some light. We shed some light on Tajay Spears, who had a really good week last week, and he had struggled from injuries this year. I know it's been a very frustrating year for him, so it hopefully will continue here in this game where we'll see him continue to build on his success. But tight end Chigakonkwo, he had a career-high 8 receptions last Sunday. Yeah, the most receptions by a Titans tight end, exactly, since Anthony Ferkser. We all remember Ferkser.
Anthony Ferkser.
Remember him? Back in 2020.
Was he in the league? Was he
I
with the
feel
Falcons?
like he's still playing somewhere. He was with the Falcons last year. He has followed Arthur Smith.
Oh, so you think he's with the Steelers?
Okay, look that up, Brad. I'm giving Brad orders. I said, look that up, Brad.
Yeah. He's always been productive. As that third guy, that move guy, receiving. So kind of Chig is kind of being more of that guy, bigger version of that a little bit. But so it was good to see Chig look, him and Spears they were very
they're
effective
two younger
in the pass
players,
game.
right?
Yes, you like to see that they're growing and developing into, what they're getting the targets, let alone making plays.
Yeah, and Anthony Ferkser, like I was mentioning, he was the last one to have that many
He's with the
receptions in 2020. So he's with the Jets.
I'm sorry, the guy with the Kansas City Chiefs now.
Oh, he's with Kansas City.
Oh,
Hold on a second.
Man, he's a well-traveled man, that Anthony Ferkser.
They just get them all, man.
Stop it already, man.
His blocker,
They do a
known
good
here
job
for
of
that block, I'll tell you
stockpiling.
that much. But he gets the ball.
Yeah.
So Chika Okonkwo, love to see him more involved again this week when it comes to just seeing what you got at this point. And I know Mason Rudolph when we did see him play in some of these earlier games, he was able to have that chemistry with a lot of these guys that he didn't really play a lot with in terms of those ones reps early on in training camp and all that. That was Will Levis. So we'll see what he can do in terms of connection today with some of those guys.
Yeah. And I think the tight end is a pivotal spot. I mean, if you look at the number of targets, you got the running back who had 6 catches on 7 targets. Chig had 8 catches, like you mentioned, and I don't think he caught every single one of them, which meant he was targeted more than 8 times. Calvin Ridley was only targeted 5 times last week. Maybe the defense was doing some things to take him away. Maybe that's the first read, and you got to go to the second and third guy. But for the most part, if you're going to call a guy Captain Checkdown, those are pretty much the recipients of that kind of situation where you're trying to get the ball out of your hands quickly. I think you mentioned that earlier, Blaine. Don't stand back there patting the ball, right? Just get the ball out of your hands. Let the guy get into a rhythm. Let the pass catcher do something with it once he gets it. You can't give it to him immediately. I mean, when the defense is right on him. So, maybe have those kind of plays or make those kind of decisions that allow those guys to become runners after they catch it. But evenly distributing the football would help them as well. Not giving any sort of predictability on where you're going with it. Sure, you'd like to have, like Blaine mentioned, some explosive plays that make the defense respect what you're doing, right? Hey, I can beat you deep. I got an arm that can get the ball down this far.
He's capable.
Don't just think I'm going to the flat every single time or the crossing routes. I'm going to make the defense play me sincerely, and we'll see what happens. But like you said, not necessarily having a situation where you're predictable. I think that balancing the attack would be great. Tony Pollard, we know that he is not necessarily the healthiest. He only had 45 yards last week on 17 carries. And they did it, like they've done sometimes this season where they didn't practice him a whole lot, during the week. But he shows up on Sunday. I think, matter of fact, I think he missed an entire week of practice time, and then came out and balled out, right?
Yeah.
So maybe sometimes this is what it takes, giving him a little bit of a rest during the week and allowing him to go out there and be healthier, on the road trip where they need his performance maybe more than anybody else's.
Real quick, I'd like to see this. They haven't done this year, but it made me think about this watching Mason Rudolph last week when he got into the game. I know it was at the end more so than anything else. The fourth quarter game was pretty much over. They were playing prevent. But I used to hate this as a defensive guy in the secondary. Change of pace, up tempo for a drive in the middle of a game where they kind of do no huddle and kind of let them call out the plays, and then all of a sudden it gets you uneasy and unsettled, and then you go back to your game plan the next drive or so, or maybe after 3 or 4 plays like that. So I'd love to see some form of that there also to see if it becomes an issue, they're not moving the football or not having success on third down.
Yep.
You want to kind of make the defense feel uncomfortable, and they haven't seen it in film.
Yeah.
See, that makes you feel like uneasy, and everybody has somewhat of a panic, and you're trying to settle down. You're getting calls from the sideline. Everybody, that's not used to. Usually you're in a huddle.
Yeah.
So now you spread out there, and then, we're going to attack you this way and see what happens. So it will be really interesting. They haven't done it, so I wouldn't think they're going to do it. But, man, I used to hate that as a defensive back.
Yeah, not allowing the defense to substitute, kind of going at a faster pace, allowing them to be a little unorganized, right? But the only risk in that is incompletions.
Yeah, right.
You know what I mean? Now you're off the field faster than what you
It
would
does
have.
happen. But that's why I say in the middle of the game when you're not having success. So now if you start having success and then you go back to your game plan after that.
That.
It's really unique in how that happens. But I don't know if that'll work or not. If I was, I'd be coaching.
Yeah, maybe you should be, Blake. You and Brad. Put you guys together.
I don't know if I'd be bald right now.
That's true. It does make you age if you look at any of the coaches, right?
Oh, man, I'd be like, hey, man, I asked you to stay outside. Why did you go inside? We've done this numerous times.
Yeah.
When Munch was our position coach, his hair was brown.
And it turned white.
By the time he ended here, his hair was snow white.
Oh, man.
It just kind of shows you the stress that being a coach can have.
Absolutely.
Gosh, man, it is a stressful job.
Speaking of Snow White, did you guys know this? I just read this, right? So the Colts are having a winter whiteout today.
Oh, for the fans.
Lucas Oil.
Oh, so they're all white today?
Yeah, so they're taking after Penn State this weekend, I guess, and doing the whole whiteout thing. I don't know if I know they've done it in the past, but I've never been there when they've done the whiteout. So it'll be interesting to see. The roof will be closed, I'm assuming, today. It is chilly there. Yeah.
Chilly Willy there.
Speaking of, are you guys, I'm surprised how much, now that we're on the note of Colts this week, I have not heard a lot from Jim Irsay this year. I don't know if he's dealing with some health issues, but it's been interesting with all the stuff they're still dealing with. You had mentioned, Blaine, Shane Steichen kind of don't know if they want him to stick around. Some of the situations there, we haven't heard a lot from Irsay.
Well, they said he only tweets out when they win, and then when they lose, you never hear from him. I said, that would scare me if I'm a coach.
Too.
Oh, my God.
Right?
You don't see anything when y'all lose, but when y'all winning, he's not even being seen.
Yeah.
I'm about to say, is he on site? Is he there for the reporters to ask him questions?
I don't think so.
He hasn't been.
And I don't think he had any health issues at this point in time. I haven't heard anything anyway.
Yeah.
So, that's a scary Irsay.
He hasn't been as available as he has in the past.
He is one of those owners like Jerry Jones that has a bullhorn, right? And doesn't mind saying what is on his mind. But if he's not around, it does kind of make you question, is he healthy enough? Or why isn't he in the building? Or why is he escaping and taking the back door?
Exactly. Or did he say, I'm going to step back a little this year, kind of let you guys do what you need to do? Because, again, Anthony Richardson, one of the younger quarterbacks in this league, he was benched earlier on this season. And, they brought him back and said, okay, we're going to give you another chance here. It's not been great, but they're seemingly rolling with him. That's why it is interesting. Buck brought up the point with Will Levis. They said, this is our quarterback this year. If he is healthy, we're going to play him. But yet, 3 games left in the season or so, he's not playing.
Yeah, that's why I said I would have wanted to see how he responded to the failure of having a really, really bad game, because that'll tell you a little bit about his character and how strong he is mentally. Also, this could be perceived by some, if Mason Rudolph looks bad, then is it your offense or is it the quarterback? Because now it's 2 different quarterbacks.
Right.
Yeah.
See?
Yeah.
So then then that finger all of a sudden went from Levis to back to
exactly.
And so that's why you got to play chess and not checkers, because that's what could happen. Not to say that Mason Rudolph won't, but you just don't know if it doesn't function correctly then, and he plays bad, you go, well, dang, that's 2 different guys. This is a veteran guy.
That's a good point.
I remember at one point when Anthony Richardson was notably benched, right, and they were going with Joe Flacco, and his demeanor after that. Remember, they showed him very engaged on the sideline. Yes, sitting with Joe Flacco, going over the tablets and stuff like that. And then ultimately, Shane said, "Hey, we think that Anthony has done enough in understanding some of his difficulties and what he was doing wrong that put him on the bench in the first place, and we're going to give him another opportunity." I wonder how will respond to being sat down. Will he be as engaging? I know Mason took the podium and he said, "Hey, look, there's no ill will between us two. He's been very supportive of me being the guy, I just wonder how actively engaged will he be, or will he be a Daniel Jones? You know what I mean? A guy that, hey, look, they put...
just Simeon Dredd. We didn't see that, so obviously not. But that is a question, though. That is a question, though. Got to stay engaged. I mean, you as a quarterback, you got to know that you got to stay engaged, because that guy can limp off on a play. He just twists his ankle.
And you're in.
You got to be.
But like you said, Blaine, this will tell us a lot with Mason Rudolph being the starter this week. Yeah. If some of the same issues still exist, then maybe it is what they're asking the quarterback to do versus their ability.
And it's a veteron quarterback who goes through the progression reads and is kind of more designed to be built in your offense.
You feel things are more stable when he's in, but again, like you said, it's not like he's been perfect this year by any means.
Right. He's gotten a lot of turnovers too.
Exactly. He had one in the Cincinnati game, just not as many as Will Levis did.
And that's a great point. So if he goes in there, and I know when you look at the 30,000-foot lens, you saw a guy that didn't take any sacks, had a couple of touchdowns, did some things later in the game. He had 39 snaps, so it wasn't like he was just in there for just a handful of plays. Yeah. But if he experiences the same difficulties, like on the offensive line that sometimes can be porous when guys don't hold up necessarily and allow a quarterback to do his job. If some of the same issues exist, if he's trying to squeeze that ball into a tight window, which he knows he shouldn't have made that decision, then you can start saying, hey, you know what? And maybe that's one of the reasons why Brian Callahan kind of kept the door open a little bit.
Yeah.
We don't see any emergency quarterback situation here or anybody that's going to come save either one of these two if all of a sudden it starts going funky, right? So Will Levis could possibly, from one snap, be back in the lineup.
Right.
So keep him
That's a good
engaged.
point.
Don't lose support to say this guy can't do it because they still need Will Levis despite him not necessarily starting this game.
Yeah, that's why I think he kept the door open because he knows there's a possibility that could happen. And he needs Will Levis. At some point, you may need him and have to go back to him.
Keys to the game, guys, and a final prediction here. What do you got? Blaine, you want to go first?
Yeah, I'm going to go 24-17 Colts. I think they're going to play more, dink and dunk, and I don't know if we're going to do well in the red zone. I just believe maybe we get a spark early with Mason Rudolph out there, but I just think right now the Colts have a lot more to play for than the Titans at this point, and I just think they're probably the better team overall.
Will Levis, 4 turnovers last week.
Yep.
Anthony Richardson, 2 turnovers last week, no touchdowns.
So did Bo Nix, didn't he?
Bo Nix had,
Bo Nix,
But he
Nix
just
has it
won.
too.
See, so nobody criticizes.
Yeah, you're right about that. And that's how it happens, though, isn't it? That's how it happens.
Like, oh, man.
He had a couple of mistakes, but they won the game. That's all that matters. All will be forgiven if you win versus if you lose. I think it comes down to simply, and it comes down to that every single week, turnovers. Don't turn the football over.
Yep.
If the Titans play turnover-free football, I guarantee you they win. I guarantee.
But pulling the Charles Barkley right
Listen,
We've got this on camera.
yes, but they have to play turnover-free football. If they don't turn the football over, not one time, not a fumble, not a pick, they win the ball game.
I won't go that far. I'll say they have a shot of winning the game.
I'm saying they're going to win it. I'm saying they're going to win it. Because put it this way, between these two offenses, somebody's giving it up. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So you would hope that it would be
sure hope
the
so.
Colts giving the opportunity for the Titans to take advantage of those turnovers. But I'm just saying, and it hasn't happened consistently, right? I think they're probably averaging a turnover a game. Certainly penalties, right?
Yeah.
So throw penalties in there too. If you don't have
been an issue all year.
What did the Bengals and the Titans have combined? 10
God,
turnovers,
it
but
was
how many penalties?
insane.
26 or something.
Not even worth
crazy.
counting. Yeah.
So I'm just saying, right now, if the Titans play turnover-free football, they will come away with a W today.
Yeah, I like that.
And they
I'm being
haven't done that
optimistic.
all year.
They have not done that.
It had to be a game.
There was one game because he actually bet on the turnover ratio would be in favor of the Titans, and you did win that. Now, I think they still had like a turnover.
But the
that
other
they
team
won.
had more turnovers.
Yeah.
Had more.
And
Exactly.
that kind of shows you by an experiment right there. If you turn the football over more often than the other team,
Right.
then you're less likely to win a ball game.
Then what's your score?
Oh, man. I don't think that either one of these teams have, they're not the Colts certainly don't have a roster.
2017 last game.
2017 last game.
Colts.
Let's go 24-27.
Okay, he wants to go with the
They gonna put up
Titans.
27?
Look at him. He's thinking about it.
You don't know. Come on.
He's thinking about it.
Maybe the defense has a score.
That's what.
Maybe the defense has a score.
Okay.
That's what it is. Okay, that's what it is.
Another Sweat.
This offense might put up 20 points, but the defense might score 2. So it's 27-24 Titans.
And they win the turnover margin.
Look at
And
that.
they win the turnover margin because I said they will win the ball game if they don't turn the dang football over.
Mr. Optimistic over here. It's funny. So Blaine said 24-17. That was actually my score that I give news to for every week on TN Nation. That isn't the score I'm going to say too.
okay.
In favor of the Colts. This team comes out. They do well when the script is there, and then it just all kind of unravels. And I feel like until you prove that to me consistently, I can't go with you. So I'm going to go with the Colts in this one. But guys, if they do have a chance, I will say this: continue to do what you do on defense. You've got to stop the run. Jonathan Taylor is healthy. He has never ran for more than 70 yards versus the Titans. Doesn't mean that he can't do it today. And doesn't mean that a backup who has had big days against the Titans as running backs can't do it. So we got to make sure, let's not have firsts happen against this Titans team today.
I wish you wouldn't have said that.
let teams have firsts against them.
I wish you wouldn't have said
I love the
Jonathan Taylor
intensity
didn't
there.
rush.
Right? I'm coming back with sea legs.
Yeah.
I'm swaying side to side. I might need a vomit bag.
You're
but when it's
not
all
soft.
said and done,
You're
I'm
not
not soft.
Yes.
I am not soft.
Is your
If the
hand okay? You hit that table.
If the Titans win today, then Jarvis Brownlee can go ahead and get that monkey.
There is exactly. By the way, if you
missed
didn't
that
see my
joke.
2-minute drill,
what happened?
he
I
wants a
missed it.
monkey.
He wants a monkey.
Yeah, he wants a pet monkey.
You remember John Henry Mills got a monkey?
I'm telling you. That's why I love covering this
Hey, the
team. You
diaper
never
and a
know what you're
monkey
going to get,
walking around
right?
his house with a diaper on.
Right. No monkey business today, though, in Indianapolis. Hopefully the Titans can get the win alongside my guys Blaine Bishop and Brad Hopkins and Buck Rising. We always say this to end the show. We're going to say it again.
Tighten up!